My entitled Karen of a date tried to use me for free alcohol on our supposed date, as she and her friend ordered over $500 worth of alcohol, expecting me to pay for the entire tab. But when I said no, she called me cheap and questioned my manhood, saying that other men would happily pay for her bill and that I should do the same. So I'm honestly wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently met an interesting girl at a photography exhibition, and we had a great conversation where we exchanged numbers, and a week later she agreed to meet for dinner. I suggested a couple of places, but she insisted on meeting at another place that was quite far from me. The day of the date I was stuck in traffic and eventually arrived about 45 minutes late. I had told her in advance I would be late because it was raining heavily. She understood and said it was no problem. When I arrived at the restaurant, she was sitting there with another female friend. It looked like they were already on their second drinks and had champagne and mineral water on the table. They had also already ordered a few things. I was surprised that the friend was there, but I played it off and we ended up having a good conversation. Now, I need you to understand that I do not drink alcohol, and in this restaurant, the drinks were quite expensive. We ordered some more food, and inevitably, the girls ordered more drinks. I mean, I counted almost 7 mixed drinks and champagne for each of them. Meanwhile, I had only 1 bottle of large sparkling water. When the bill came, given that there was 3 of us, I honestly thought the date had just turned into a group dinner so we would split the bill, but when the bill arrived, it was delivered to me and the girl said thank you to me. I caught the bill and the total bill was $620, and the food was only about $120. I calmly turned to the waitress, handed her my card, and told her to put all the food on my card. So she charged it and I tipped her out. At this time, the female friend started getting upset, saying that I should cover the whole bill. I calmly responded that this is not a date. I don't know you and I didn't have any of the alcohol. She said that all men pay for this, to which I replied that I am not one of them. I thanked them for the evening and I left the restaurant, leaving the both of them with a $500 alcohol bill. Afterwards, the girl I liked sent me a long text message and was really upset with me for not paying for the entire bill. She even attacked my manhood, calling me cheap. She knows I have money, so she doesn't understand why I didn't pay. Now, I desperately wanted to reply and let loose on this lady, but I decided against it and simply responded by saying, "I'm sorry you feel that way, I hope you take care." So honestly, am I the jerk here? I didn't even bring up that she brought her friend unannounced, drank a ridiculous amount of alcohol, and expected me to pay for all of it. It's not like I didn't pay. I paid for all the food, including their food, and if it was a solo date, I would have paid for the both of us. But apparently, other men in my situation, when faced with a group, would pay for the whole bill. I honestly would love to hear someone else's perspective, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, this lady thought she could get a free meal out of you. She not only ordered all these drinks on purpose, but she seriously had the gall to go into this and expect you to pay for all of it. And that is honestly so insane to me. Like, that's why she brought her friend with her. She didn't consider this a date at all. She only wanted you around under the guise that this is a date and you're gonna pay for everything. That way they can have as many drinks as they want for free. I mean, why else would they come after your manhood and call you cheap and try to guilt trip you by saying, "Wow, other men pay for the bill. I can't believe that you're not paying for a $500 alcohol bill." Like, it would be different if you actually did drink alcohol that night and you bought something and had some kind of contribution to that bill, but you literally are just a bystander. Like, these two were already pre-gaming before you even showed up for your supposed date. No wonder she wanted to meet up 45 minutes away. So no, of course you're not the jerk. This entitled Karen of a date clearly was trying to use you, and that, in my opinion, is completely unfair. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My father thinks that I should do everything for him, as he constantly bosses me around and practically controls every aspect of my life. But after dealing with this for far too long, I'm now in the process of moving out and living with another relative, and I honestly can't wait to get away from my dad. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I moved back home a while ago, all because of some issues I was dealing with. But being back in my family home has been a nightmare, and my dad was the main reason I left the house years ago. I kept minimal contact after a while, and I really thought he had turned a new leaf and had changed. I thought everything was going to be okay, but unfortunately they are not. I have to bring him his tea every 2 to 3 hours. I have to pick up his dirty plates and cups from the basement, and I also have to bring him snacks, his meals, his juice, his medication, anything you can name. And when I bring him his food, he complains complains and says I gave him too much, and then would question me why I do that. I'm starting to get very overwhelmed and stressed out, as well as feeling sad for myself every day. I also cook and clean for him and the rest of my family. When he calls me or tells me to do something, he repeats that same thing about 3 to 4 times a day, and it really gets on my nerves. My dad is also constantly asking for money 24/7 because he claims that he's broke. I can't go anywhere past midnight, and if I leave at any time of the day, it's followed up by him asking where I'm going, why I'm going outside, what's even out there for me to do in the first place, and that I need to come back early so I can help him out. I'm just so tired and exhausted. My sister recently left, and all he can do is badmouth her, and has stated that if she does not come back to see her father, then she will burn in Hades. I'm planning to leave after this in less than a week to a relative's house. My dad installed cameras in the house as well, and checks them religiously to see what time we leave and what time we arrive. And I have a lot of items to transport, and I'm worried about what he's gonna do or think if he sees me. I also need to mention that if I say no or if I don't agree with what he's saying, I'm apparently disrespecting my father and I should get out of his face. I mean, I had to take out my piercings because of him, and I couldn't even have braids in my hair for long. And even though he would say they're fine, whenever he sees me with them on, he tells me over and over again to take them out and that it looks ugly. I try to stick up for myself as best as I can, but he's conditioned me to believe that I'm the one who should act like a second parent and bow down to him and just be grateful. Also, I've been losing weight, and he is always watching me eat food and just simply judging me. So I'm honestly so frustrated, and I simply can't wait to finally get out. Yeah, I would want to get out of that house as well. Your dad sounds obnoxious, and I can see why you moved out. And it's even worse because you thought that you were giving him a second chance because he somehow turned over a new leaf. But instead, this guy is like super demanding. He makes you do all this stuff all the time, and that's just not fair in my opinion. So I'm really glad that you're getting out of there and going to another relative's house, because your dad sounds like an awful person to live with, and I just can't imagine putting up with that on a daily basis. Am I the jerk for refusing to apologize to my dad's stepchildren, all because I moved out while I was still a kid? Because now that we are all adults, they're actually claiming that I owe them an apology for leaving and not being a brother to them when I was younger. Here's what happened. So my dad became a single dad to me while I was still very young. And by very young, I mean about 5 years old. My mom up and left at that time due to a mental health crisis that was not really recognized at the time. And 2 years later, we found out that she had passed away. It was pretty world-shattering for me because I learned she hadn't been well, and I felt tremendously guilty because I called her mean and said that she was a bad mom for leaving me, when in reality, she had needed help, and it was help she didn't get before it was too late. My dad was busy working, and I spent most of my days with my grandparents. They would take care of me before and after school, on Saturdays when my dad also worked, and all day before breaks from school. They were who I was used to more than him, but I did crave a relationship with him, and I got some attention and time with him on Sundays when he was off work and would actually be with me. When I was 10 years old, he moved a woman with her children into our house, and 2 months later, he got married to that woman. When she moved in, my dad stopped sending me to my grandparents and told me I would be staying with the woman and her kids before and after school, and that our family had grown so I could be at home with them. And honestly, I hated it. I did not know her or the kids at this point, and I only met her the day before they moved in when they dropped off some of their stuff. And when my dad had Sundays off, as always, he was too busy with her, or with her kids, or trying to drag us all along to something that I got no time with just him. Now, I told him about this, and he said he wouldn't be able to do it anymore because he was a married man and had other kids he was responsible for. I asked my grandparents if I could live with them, and they told my dad, and he talked to me, and I told him I wanted to live with my family. And since he wasn't going to be available for me, I might as well be with my grandparents who I loved rather than the strangers he moved into our house. My dad told me that I could have a mom again and siblings if I stayed, and I told him that it was weird to think about strangers that way. Now, it bothered him and he resisted at first, but my grandparents told him that he had dropped the ball when it came to me, and it was time to either step up and do better or let me go to them where they could devote the time to me. So I moved in with my grandparents. I saw my dad not very often, maybe a handful of times a year at best, but typically not even that. His wife was offended I didn't want to stay with her her and her kids, and as her kids have gotten older, and now that we're all adults or older teens, they're upset and feel like I owe them an apology for leaving because I'm their brother, and I chose to leave rather than be their brother to get to know them and be a family with them. They actually asked me for an apology last week when I saw them at a family function, but I refused to apologize and I told them I have zero regrets. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think this blame is absolutely being misplaced. They should not be mad at you, they should be mad at your dad. Your dad clearly neglected you and did absolutely nothing to help with this transition period. I mean, I would be pretty upset if I was a kid and this lady and her kids suddenly moved into the house and my dad is saying, "Oh look, this is your new mom and siblings." It's like, what are you talking about? I don't even know these people. So for your step siblings to be like, "Wow, this is your fault. How dare you do this?" Like they literally don't know what they're talking about, and for them to say that honestly is so disgusting. So no, you are not the jerk for moving out as a child because your dad did not make it very easy for you to live there. And if they really are upset about you not being a brother to them, then they need to direct their anger at their stepdad instead of trying to falsely place it on your shoulders. An entitled Karen signs up for a free meal and then throws a temper tantrum and cancels it all because I was gonna show up 10 minutes late. And I'm honestly so sick of dealing with people like this, especially when they're so wasteful and cause me to waste my time. Here's what happened. Okay, so I do volunteer work where I buy ingredients, make a home-cooked meal, and deliver it to families in need once a month. It all comes out of my own pocket, and I do it because I remember struggling as a kid, and times are unbelievably tough right now. Well, this month, I matched with an absolute jerk who already set off some red flags. Our first interaction was her being upset it wasn't a service that I could provide for her more frequently, and I told her it was voluntary work and I did it at my own expense. We agreed a drop-off at noon, but she stated she was free anytime after 10 o'clock with no restrictions. Then, the morning of delivery, she texts me early morning, then sends me a series of question marks and exclamation marks because I didn't respond after 15 minutes. I let her know I'm running a little bit behind and I will be there around 10 minutes later than we planned, but her food is hot, fresh, and ready to go and be eaten. Well, as you can probably guess, she texted me back telling me to just forget about it because she wasn't going to wait for me and not come to her house. I tell her the food is ready to go, and I also asked her if she was sure she couldn't wait 10 minutes or maybe even just reschedule. She then throws a temper tantrum via text messaging, saying to me, "No, I don't want it anymore. Just give it to someone else and maybe next time be on time." Now, when she said this, I was angry. This was food we couldn't eat ourselves because I have a negative reaction to one of the main ingredients if ingested. And what's even worse is that this food could have gone to a family in need, and she took it away from them by signing up for the service, matching with me, and then canceling because I was 10 minutes late. And I honestly can't stand entitled Karens who act this way. Wow, that's honestly insane to me because here you have a free meal and you freak out because it's 10 minutes late. Like seriously, things happen and sometimes deliveries don't come on time. Like that really is a part of life. There's no reason to act that way. I can't stand when people are so irrational and so unreasonable like this. They throw this massive temper tantrum as if their time is the most valuable time on planet Earth. And anyone who tries to throw around the idea of, oh, the customer's always right, has clearly never worked customer service. Because guess what? The customer is never right. The customer can be rude, impatient, and probably would try to get you fired if they felt like it. And this entitled Karen is no exception. So honestly, to the original poster, I'm so sorry you had to deal with this because you had it right. This food could have gone to a family in need, but instead, this entitled Karen ruined the entire experience. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy back the engagement ring from my ex after we broke up and decided not to get married? Because right now, my mom is furious with me, stating that that ring was a family heirloom and that I should pay any price to try and get it back. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 23-year-old male, and I recently got out of a relationship with my ex-fiance, who we will call Mary. Mary is not her real name. She is also 23 years old, and we were together for 3 years and engaged for 4 months. I called off the engagement and eventually broke up with Mary due to her cheating on me and lying about various things unrelated to cheating. Now, I think people deserve second chances, but my final straw was when I found out that she had been cheating on me with her own stepbrother, and I knew right then that I just had to walk away. In a nutshell, the breakup was very volatile. There was lots of arguing and her trying to bargain with me, and I asked her to leave my apartment. My family was very disappointed when they found out, and that's because they really really wanted Mary to be my bride. When we first started dating, my mom gave me a family heirloom ring to propose to Mary with, and its value is sentimental. It's not made of any particular expensive materials like gold or diamonds. Well, my mom is now asking for the ring back, but I never got it back off of Mary. Once things had cooled off, I did ask Mary for the ring back. She then asked why she should give it back, hinting that she wanted some kind of payment. I offered her $40 and she demanded $300 plus my laptop and PS5, and then she threatened to pawn the ring off. So I called her bluff and said that she's getting $40 or nothing. She then said, "Okay, have it your way," and then shut the door in my face and said that she's gonna pawn it off. I explained the situation to my mom, and my mom was very angry that I didn't immediately pay up to Mary just to try and get it back by any means necessary. She then asked me if my laptop and PlayStation were more important than a family heirloom. I told her that Mary probably wouldn't have given it back anyways, and likely has already lost it or pawned it off. She then demanded that I contact my ex immediately and offer her whatever she wants. But I told her no and that I'm not doing it on principle. This caused an argument between me and my mom, and she thinks that I'm being a bad son. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to buy this ring back? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, in my opinion, you should not have to buy back that ring at all. An engagement ring is not a gift. It's literally just a symbol that, yeah, we're gonna get married. Or at least that you're like thinking about getting married. That marriage is not happening anymore because she's a cheating scumbag. So in my opinion, she should just be giving it back. But here's the thing, she's not gonna do that because she's an absolute jerk. And instead, she's trying to take away as much as she can from you. And she's going after stuff you probably like your laptop or your PS5. And I think you have it right. There's probably a really good chance she's already pawned off this ring, and you guys will probably never see it again. And it also doesn't sound like you can be reasonable with Mary in the slightest, because just look at the way she's acting. She knows that this is an important family heirloom, and so instead of giving it back like a reasonable human being, she's holding it over your head just out of reach, asking for more money and more property. And that, in my opinion, is so disgusting, and it's so disturbing that she would get some kind of kick out of it. Also, when it comes to your mom, I think her anger is also completely misplaced. Like, it's not your fault that Mary's acting like a psychopath. This lady is not being reasonable and you can't get it back from her. And also, why should you give in to her weird demands? So for your mom to call you a bad son, while also demanding that you hand over whatever she wants to get that ring back, in my opinion, is just not fair for you. You didn't know she was gonna cheat on you, and you didn't know she was gonna turn out to be a weirdo. And in my opinion, if your mom really wants that ring back, then she should talk to Mary directly, because clearly you are not able to get through to her, and in my opinion, that is not your fault in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my brother that he's single because he's pathetic and a walking red flag? Because right now I really insulted him, and he is calling me a massive jerk. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother was spoiled for 8 years because he almost passed away. The short version is that he was very sick and spent months at a time in the hospital as a kid, and both my parents and extended family gave him everything he wanted because he wasn't expected to live past 9 years old. Medical science did save his life, but it took a couple of years for everyone to stop spoiling him. My father admitted that it was just habit, but once he realized the negative impact it had on me and the entitlement of my brother, things changed immediately, and my mother is to this day the only one holding out. Obviously, my brother hated that he was being told for anything. Everyone expected him to adjust over time, but he never really did. He even told a therapist that he'd never cooperate because he was right and everyone else was wrong. My brother is extremely intelligent, but he's lazy and very arrogant. He had to repeat senior year of high school because he refused to do any of the work. He refused to go to community college because he believed that he knew more than the professors. He refused to get a job until he was 24 because he felt that all the jobs short of CEO were beneath him. Whenever my dad tried to do something about this attitude, like taking away my dad's credit card so my brother could no longer just buy takeout every single day, my mother immediately undermined my dad. My brother doesn't cook or clean, he doesn't pay rent, and over the last 5 years, he has started viewing women as subservient to men. And this has caused massive damage to his relationship with my dad. My brother still lives with my dad, and when I visit him occasionally, we do talk. And last time I visited, my brother complained that every girl he's taken out has ghosted him. I asked for information on the dates, such as where they went and what they talked about and stuff like that, and he mentioned that they get weird as soon as he mentions his life plan, which is to inherit his dad's house and have his wife be a stay-at-home mom while he works. I told him that might be because he's 27 and making minimum wage, and his plan is to never never actually be an adult. My dad also told him that if he passed, I would inherit the house because I know how to pay the bills. I said I'd have to charge my brother rent if he stayed or if I had to move in. My brother said that ruined his life plan because he was supposed to get everything since I'm getting married and my husband should control me. And at this point, I snapped. I told him the reason he's getting ghosted is because he's a pathetic walking red flag and no woman would disrespect themselves enough to be with a loser like him. And right then, he started screaming at me that I'm a jerk. Now, my dad understands that what I said is true, but that I should have been less blunt. My mother keeps calling to demand that I apologize for insulting my brother, and I do want him to change and grow up, so I feel I was wrong in calling him a loser and pathetic, even though I stand by the red flag part firmly. So I really need to know if I'm the jerk in this situation, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. I do not think you're the jerk at all, and I think your brother had a wake-up call coming his way sooner than later. First of all, this guy acts like men are above women, and that men should somehow control women even in marriage, and that really is a walking red flag. Like, why would any woman want to be with that guy if he's just gonna treat her as some kind of like lesser creature? Like, that literally sounds awful. And what kind of life plan is that if you really think you're gonna inherit your dad's house and force your wife to be a stay-at-home mom? It doesn't sound like this guy has any kind of like job lined up that's gonna secure his future, and if anything, he sounds like a spoiled brat. And it is such a shame that your mom undermines your dad. He's probably trying desperately to teach him good, healthy habits, but the mom is like, no, give him back the credit card so he can buy takeout all the time. So no, you're not the jerk for insulting your brother, because you know what? If he's gonna dish it, then he better be able to take it. Because what he said about you is absolutely inappropriate. And if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever put up with that. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.